Is it on? Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-ali al-azim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin la siyama baqiyatullah fil ardin ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Al-Fiqh al-Istidlali. We are on the page 362 and the topic today is about definition of immersing one's head in water. Does it mean that it should be in the way that water reaches the skin? So if someone puts his head in a plastic bag or in a special dress, that water would not reach his skin, but still the head is inside water. Is it a problem or not? So what do we mean by immersing one's head in water? غمس الرأس وهو في زجاجة أو كيس. Immersing head in water while the head is inside a glass or a pack. إذا غمس الرأس وهو في زجاجة أو نحوها كما يفعل الغواصون فهل ذلك من الارتماس? If Sa'im, the one who fasts, immerses his head while the head is in a glass or something like that, like those people who dive into the sea, they have a special equipments that help them with oxygen, etc. They are able to open their eyes inside water, and maybe even sometimes they can do it in the way that their head doesn't become wet at all. So is this also included in irtimas or not? Some ulama make distinction between immersing head while the head is covered with something which is touching the skin, and when it is covered with something which doesn't touch the skin. There is a space, there is some air between the skin and that bag, etc. قد يفصل بينما إذا كان الحائل لاصقا بالبشرة كما في الكيس البلاستيكي فلا يجوز لصدق الرمس عرفا وما إذا لم يكن كذلك فيجوز لعدم صدقه. So sometimes distinction is made, tafsil, distinction is made between two options, two conditions. One, when ha'il, the one which stands between head and water, this barrier, is touching the skin. Lasiq is heating, is touching the skin. Ilsaq means to attach. Like a plastic bag, when the head is in a plastic bag, and plastic bag, because of pressure of water, touches our skin. If it is touching the skin, they said لا يجوز, because رمس الرأس في الماء عرفاً includes this as well. It applies to this as well. لصدق الرمس عرفاً. So according to common sense and common usage of language, they say this person, even if his head is wrapped with plastic bag, they say he has immersed his head in water. وما إذا لم يكن كذلك, meaning ما إذا لم يكن لاصقاً بالبشرة. They made distinction between when it is touching skin and when it's not touching. If it is not touching, فيجوز, here no problem. You can be fasting according to this group and have something around your head which is not touching your skin. So there is a space, there's air. Why it's not a problem? لعدم صدقه means لعدم صدق الرمس عرفان. Because here عرفان they don't say he has immersed his head. Sahib Jawahir Rahmatullah Alayh quotes from his teacher كاشف الغطاء رحمة الله عليه قال في الجواهر, يعني صاحب الجواهر قال في الجواهر نقلا عن أستاذه كاشف الغطاء. This is volume 16 of Jawahir, as you see in the footnote, page 230. May Allah inshallah give us tawfiq that one day we study Jawahir inshallah. Some ulama say if someone can understand one page of Jawahir, he is mujtahid. Such a, deep and at the same time concise text. Sahib Jawahir says وفي كشف الأستاذ, meaning في كشف الغطاء, from my ustad, my teacher. أما سد المنافذ وإدخال الرأس في مانع من وصول الماء إليه متصلا به فلا يرفع حكم الغمس. He says, in the book of my teacher, it has been said that if you can block all the openings and completely cover your head by putting your head في مانع, in a barrier that doesn't let water touch the head, and this مانع is متصلا, is connected بالرأس, به means بالرأس. So Sahib al-Jawahir said, if someone manages to, for example, wrap his head with some plastic, no water is reaching the head, but this mane is muttasil bil head, yani muttasil bil ras. So the plastic is touching your skin. Water is not touching, but mane is touching. He said, this would not remove hukm al-ghams. Hukm al-ghams, whatever is hukm al-ghams. Is it fasad? Is it, I don't know, hurma? Is it taklifi? Is it waz'i? Whatever it is, we said there are 4 opinions. Whatever was the hukm, the ruling for ghams, yani immersing head in water, would not be removed when mane is muttasil. But وفي المنفصل يقوى رفعه, يعني رفع الحكم. But if mane is munfasil, there is a space between mane and skin, then it is qavi. Normally even fuqaha say qavi is fatwa. when they say al-aqwa or yaqwa, means this is an opinion which is strong. Raf'ul hukm. So this is why we said qad yufassal. This is one example. Kashiful ghita is making this distinction between mani' muttasil and mani' munfasil. If mani' is muttasil, it's the same as putting without mani' in water. It's a problem. But if it is mani' munfasil, it's like not putting head in water. Sheikh Irvani says وَفِيهِ إِنَّهُ لَا وَجْهَ لَهُ. So there is ishkal in this istidlal, this distinction. He says la wajha lah, means there is no point here, there is no ground for this istidlal. لأن إما أن نقف عند الألفاظ ولا نلاحظ مناسبات الحكم والموضوع أو لا. Because we have two options. Either we stop with alfaz, with the terms. So we go literally by words and do not consider munasabatul hukm wal mawdu. Do not consider the relations between subject and predicate. This munasabatul hukm wal mawdu is one of the great things in fiqh and other subjects. Sometimes from relations and the fact that hukm and mawdu, they should match each other, you can interpret one with the help of the other. So, for example, I give you one example. All of you have heard, this hadith from Imam Rida alayhi salam. لو علم الناس محاسن كلامنا لاتبعونا. If people knew our beautiful words, beautiful hadith, they would have followed us. Nas is normally used for non-Shia. Some people think this means that we have to share beautiful teachings of Ahlul Bayt for us. Those teachings of Ahlul Bayt are beautiful in our opinion with the non-Shia, and they would follow. And then they say all the teachings of Ahlul Bayt are beautiful, so we can teach them and share with them every teaching of Ahlul Bayt, every hadith. First of all, this is not what we understand from other teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, but I want to use munasabatul hukm wal mawdu. I say, when Imam is saying, if Nas knew beautiful teachings of us or beautiful words of us, they would have followed us. So it must mean something which is beautiful for Nas, not beautiful for me that I am quoting. If something is beautiful for me but not for the listener, he cannot understand it, then he is not going to be impressed. It must be something that is first beautiful for that person, and second, something which is exceptionally beautiful. Not that when I say, he says, yes, I like it and we have something similar. So in this case also he would not follow. He only would follow that if he finds exceptional beauty in this, something that he cannot find in other places. He says, this is very beautiful, I have not come across this, where did you get this? So this shows that you have to be very selective. Not because other hadiths are not beautiful. All hadiths are beautiful, but here is a relational issue. Something that for nas is beautiful, not just for me. This is one example of how tanasub or munasabatul hukm wal mawdu helps us understand the meaning of hadith. If someone doesn't consider this, just translates this, may come up with a strange interpretation. So this is a general thing in fiqh, in other subjects it's very helpful. So here Sheikh Irwani says, either we want to go just by terms literally and disregard munasabatul hukm wal mawdu, or we want to consider munasabatul hukm wal mawdu. إما أن نقف عند الألفاظ ولا نلاحظ مناسبات الحكم والموضوع أو لا, means we don't want to stop, we don't want to have wuquf, we don't want just to go by literal meaning, and we want to consider munasabatul hukm wal mawdu. So either yes or no, there is no third option. وعلى التقديرين, and in both cases there is no difference between مانع متصل و منفصل. So if you want to go literally by the terms, you have to say there is problem, because for example you are putting your head in water. If you want to say no, this is not considered as putting head in water because it is covered, then again doesn't make difference between muttasil and munfasil. فلا وعلى التقديرين فلا لا there's no fa على التقديرين لا فرق بين المانع المتصل والمنفصل. In both cases, so if you want to go by the literal meaning, both would be problem. If you want to say no, since water is not touching, this is not making you wet, water is not going inside, for example, then again no problem, they are the same, muttasil and munfasil. So either muttasil and munfasil are problem, or none of them is a problem. أما على الأول, if you want to go by alfaz literally, فلا فرق في تحقق الارتماس, there is no difference between muttasil and munfasil in the fact that irtimas has happened, water has covered the head. إذ الرأس مغموس في الماء حتى مع المانع المنفصل, because head is put inside water. Is the hair outside water or inside water? Inside water. So it is applicable that head is inside water, even when mana is not touching your skin, munfasil. Still we say head is inside water. If you want to go by alfaz and say, for me the only thing is head inside water or outside water. وَأَمَّا عَلَى الثَّانِي, but if you want to say no, I don't want to go by alfaz literally, I want to say that what was munasabatul hukm wal mawdu, what could have made fasting void? Why there is emphasis on not putting head in water? It must be a matter of, for example, water making you wet, or water going inside mouth through nose, for example. So if we say this was the reason, then if it is covered, no problem, whether it is muttasil or munfasil. وَأَمَّا عَلَى الثَّانِي, and we go according to munasabat al-hukm al-mawdu, فَلَا فَرْقَ فِي عَدَمِ تَحَقُّقِهِ, there is no difference between muttasil and munfasil in the fact that Rams has not taken place. Rams in the way that water comes to your mouth or nose, etc. لأن الرمس أنما يكون ممنوعا عرفا لخصوصية ملامسة الماء للبشرة. Putting head in water is prohibited عرفا. If you come to this conclusion that Orf understand from this that this is prohibited because of what? Because of ملامسة الماء للبشرة, water touching the skin. وإلا فهل يحتمل تحقق الارتماس بالكون في قواصة أو نحوها تحت الماء. The question is question of water touching your skin and possibly going through your mouth or nose inside. Otherwise, if we use submarine, something that we can go inside, close the door and go inside the air, to the water, ocean. Is it a problem? All our body is underwater. But Orf say, no, this is not a ramsul ra's fil ma. We are in a room, we are in a big space. So ramsul ras or ramsul badan fil ma would not be applicable here. So he is not happy with this distinction between al-muttasil and al-munfasil. He says if we go by alfaz literally, whether it's muttasil or munfasil is a problem. If we don't go by alfaz, which we shouldn't also, so he also agrees that we shouldn't go by alfaz, we should consider munasabat al-hukm al-mawdu, then it's not a problem, whether it is muttasil or munfasil. وعليه فالتفرقة بين الحالتين لا وجه لها. تفرقة فرق يفرق تفريقا وتفرقة is like تفصيل. تفريق is like تفصيل, is to separate, to make distinction. So to make distinction between حالة المتصل والمنفصل, حالة الاتصال وحالة الانفصال, لا وجه لها, has no point. خب, which one we should do then? We should go by alfaz literally, or we should go by munasabat? We should go by munasabat. وحيث إن تحكيم المناسبات أمر ضروري فلا تحريم في كلتا الحالتين. And since making munasabat established and firm means we have to consider munasabat, it is necessary, so there is no prohibition in both cases. Whether you wrap your head with a plastic and the plastic touches your skin, or there is something that is like a special hat that doesn't let water touch your skin, is munfasil. There is no problem in both cases. خب, alhamdulillah, we finished this one. The next muftir that we have to study and see what are the opinions of mujtahideen is wusul al-ghibar ila al-jawf. Dust reaches inside body, for example, go through the throat. Jawf means batin, means inside. Dalilul muftariyah. What is the reason that this is considered as one of the things that breaks fasting? One of the things that break fasting. And what does it mean? What are opinions? All things, inshallah, we discuss. على تقدير مفترية الأكل غير المعتاد. You remember one of the discussions we had about akl was if akl is with something which is not ordinarily eaten, is not eatable. For example, if someone eats soil, is it still breaking fasting, or it has to be mu'tad, something which is normally eaten? If suppose our view is that غير المعتاد is also a problem, eating, for example, soil is also muftir. What about dust? If you say eating soil is not a problem, then there is no need to talk about dust going inside, because it's not worse than akl. But if you say akl of غير المعتاد is a problem, then we should see whether it is this is also can be considered similar to akl or not, etc. على تقدير مفترية الأكل غير المعتاد هل اتفق على مفترية الغبار أو لا. And the assumption that eating what is not customary, is not normally eaten, if you say this is muftar, this is breaking fast, okay, so on this assumption, on the basis of this assumption, is there agreement about dust being muftar or not? What does it mean, dust being muftar? Means dust going inside, of course, otherwise ghibar by itself is not muftar, means letting it reach inside. صاحب الشرائع محقق حلي رضوان الله تعالى عليه ذكر في الشرائع أن المسألة خلافية. He says this mas'ala is not something that ulama have agreement upon it. Yeah, it's controversial. وفي الجواهر صاحب جواهر رحمة الله عليه أنه لم يجد فيها خلافا. صاحب جواهر says, I have not found any disagreement إلا من المحقق في المعتبر حيث تردد. So صاحب شرائع says it is not ijma'i. Sahib Jawahir says, I have not found someone who disagrees except Muhaqqiq in the book Mu'tabar, and he didn't take positive or decisive position. He was mutaraddid. He was in doubt. He was hesitant. Taraddada. Taraddada, yani he had doubt. He was hesitant. Sahib Hada'iq Bahrani, Ridwanullah ta'ala alayh, he says, أن في المسألة أقوالا ثلاثة. He says there are three opinions here. One, وجوب القضاء والكفارة. This is muftar, therefore you have to repeat. If you do this, you have to repeat your fasting, and also you have to give kafara or fast 60 days, etc. Number two, وجوب القضاء فحسب. There is no kafara, just you need to repeat. Number three, عدم وجوب الشيئان. neither qada is necessary nor kafara. وهو مختاره قدس سره وجمع يعني مختار جمع من متأخر المتأخرين. So it seems that in the time of earlier ulama, this agreement was not that much, but later when we come to recent or more recent time, there is more diversity. So the third opinion is عدم وجوب شيء, there is no قضاء no كفارة, وهو مختاره يعني مختار صاحب الحدائق الحدائق الناظرة, ومختار جمع is عطف عن ضمير مختاره, وجمع من متأخر المتأخرين, recent ulama, after normally after Allama Hilli may be considered as mutaakhirin, and after him then those who are even more recent. وعليه فالمسألة خلافية. Based on this, that we have different opinions, this mas'ala is khilafi. Khilafi here means not ittifaqi, is not ijma'i, it's ikhtilaf. Means ulama have different opinions. وقد استدل على مفتريته بوجهين. There are two arguments for وصول الغبار إلى الجوف being مفتر. Two arguments are mentioned. The first is what صاحب مدارك الأحكام, the late Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Khunsari, who passed away after revolution. He was alive. He was one of the great Maraja, and he was in Tehran, based in Tehran, and he's one of those people that ulama had great respect for his piety, great respect for his piety. In his book in his book Madarik al-Ahkam, he says, as an argument why this is muftir, he says a person who lets dust go inside his throat, أنه أوصل إلى جوفه ما ينافي الصوم. He has let something which is in conflict with fasting go inside his stomach. He has done this. أوصل. Isal is mutaaddi from wusul. Wusul means to reach. Awsala means made it reach. So he let this reach to his inside, his stomach, which is conflicting with fasting. فَكَانَ مُفْسِدًا لَهُ. So he has made his fasting fasid, void. Sheikh Irwani says, إن كان المقصود أن كل ما وصل إلى الجوف فهو مفطر وإن لم يصدق عليه الأكل أو الشرب كما تقدم عن مختلف العلامة فيرده ما تقدم من أن المدار على صدق أحدهما. If Sahib Madarik al-Ahkam means, if his maqsood, if what he means is that whatever reaches inside is breaking fasting, even if it is not considered as eating or drinking, which is an opinion that when we were discussing Akl and Shur, we said that Allama Yahaldi in his Mukhtalaf has mentioned this opinion, that even if it is not akl and shurb, it's a problem. If he means the same thing, the answer is the same thing that we gave there, that we said no. If it is considered as akl or shurb, it's problem. If it is not akl and shurb, mujarradul isal ila al-jawf is not a problem. فيرده ما تقدم من أن المدار على صدق أحدهما. What we said before, that madar يعني ما يدور عليه الحكم, madar, manat, milak, the criterion is what? One of the two should be applicable, either akl or shurb, at least one of these two. So if Ayatollah Sayyid Ahmad Khunsari Ridwanullah Ta'ala alayh, he means that because just it has reached inside, it's a problem, even if it is not considered as akl and shurb. So this is the answer. If he means no, this is akl, he wants to say that ghibar, when goes inside, is like eating. وإن كان المقصود صدق الأكل في المقام باعتبار أن الغبار يمر من خلال الحلق. If what he means is that akl is applicable here, you can say akl has happened. Why? Because this dust is going through the throat. So if you say my definition of akl is something goes inside the throat, and this is akl. He says فيرده أن الغبار أشبه بالبخار والغاز فلا يصدق الأكل. Ghibar, dust, is like a steam, like gas. Urf doesn't say this is akl. If a steam goes inside your body or gas goes inside, they don't say eating has taken place. Okay? So our problem is that akl is not applicable here, let alone to say this is mu'tad or غير mu'tad. That's another issue. So فيرده أن الغبار أشبه بالبخار والغاز فلا يصدق الأكل. So this is the problem. It's not akl. We are not talking about akl mu'tad or غير mu'tad. لا من ناحية اختصاص الأكل بالمعتاد. Not that akl has to be with ordinary things. بل لأنه لا يصدق عرفا ما لم يكن الجسم كثيفا. Urfan, akl does not apply if that physical body, that jism, that physical mass that goes inside is not thick. Kathif in Arabic is different from Farsi. In Farsi, when they say something kathif, means dirty. Kathif. But in Arabic, kathif, mukathaf, means thick. So if it's very, light and thin, like gas, they don't say this akl. Therefore, ومن هنا يمكن القول بعدم مفترية استعمال جهاز الربو. Some people have to use this device because they suffer from asthma. If it is just gas going inside, there's no problem. If there is a liquid, then shurb, if shurb is applicable, then it's a problem. Of course, everyone should refer to their marja', but here Sheikh Irwani says gas, steam are not problem because they are not akl or shurb. خب. This is one argument. We said there are two arguments. The second argument based on a hadith, or what is considered by some people to be hadith. ثانيهما ما رواه الشيخ بإسناده عن محمد بن الحسن الصفار عن محمد بن عيسى عن سليمان بن جعفر المروزي. A hadith that Sheikh Tusi has quoted from Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Safar, from Muhammad ibn Isa, from Sulaiman ibn Ja'far al-Marwazi. Marwazi from city of Marv, Khurasan, you know, at that time when Imam Raza alayhi salam moved there, it was called Marv. Still, Marv is very well known in Iran. The name, I mean. قال سمعته. He doesn't say whom, which Imam, or whether Aslan it was Imam, was not Imam. He just says سمعته يقول. I heard him saying إذا تمضمض الصائم في شهر رمضان أو استنشق متعمدا أو شم رائحة غليظة أو كنس بيتا فدخل في أنفه وحلقه غبار فعليه صوم شهرين متتابعين فإن ذلك له مفطر مثل الأكل والشرب والنكاح. If the one who is fasting puts water inside the mouth or inside the nose intentionally, or smells very strong fragrance, or is cleaning the house and then dust comes a lot and goes inside the nose and throat, he must fast 2 consecutive months, because this is muftir, like eating, drinking and having marital relation. So if this is a reliable hadith, it's very clear. But وَيُشْكَلْ بِضَعْفِ السَّنَدِ بِالْمَرْوَزِي. But the problem is that this sanad is weak because of Marwazi, Sulaiman ibn Ja'far al-Marwazi. He is not personally verified. We don't have enough ground to verify him, unless we say that, you know, one of the tawsiqat amme, you know, tawsiqat khasse and tawsiqat amme. Tawsiqat amme are ways that you can verify many narrators at the same time. For example, if someone has been mentioned in the chains of narrations in Kamil al-Ziyarat by Ibn Qulaway, because Ibn Qulaway says in Kamil al-Ziyarat that I only quote reliable hadith through reliable chains of narrations. So some ulama say, then if someone is mentioned there and we don't have other ways to verify, this testimony of Ibn Qulaway is adequate. So since Sulaiman ibn Ja'far al-Marwazi is mentioned in Kamil al-Ziyarat in the chains of narration, then in this way we can say we trust him. Otherwise it's a problem. But there are other ishkalat as well. For example, this riwayah is mudmara. We don't know from whom he is quoting. Other things, because we are approaching time of salat, inshallah we continue in the next session. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Do you have any question?
Thank you very much.
May Allah bless you.
brothers or sisters have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay, so inshallah we meet bi'Iznillah inshallah next week or for other inshallah classes. التماس دعاء. خدا حافظ.
جزاك الله.
Thank you. خدا حافظ. خدا حافظ.